Hey, and welcome everybody to Frame This Podcast. I'm Philippe.
My name is Nate.
And today we have with us Briana Adhikusuma.
Yes.
How do you do?
Yeah, I did
Excited to be here.
That was his first try.
That was my first try, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for getting up so early and having to deal with us. I know it's a lot. All right, so Nate, let's get started.
All right. So I've known Briana for the better part of a decade. She was at a friend's birthday party in high school. And then she just popped up on my Instagram feed as a photographer and journalist. How did you get started with journalism? Have you always been a writer, or is that something that happened later?
Yeah, so when I went to college, I couldn't decide if I wanted to go into journalism or photography. Obviously, journalism won out, but I still minored in photography. So when I went to college, I actually thought I wanted to do broadcast journalism, but then I got in front of a camera and I totally screwed up. I was total shit at it. So
You're doing fine here.
Well, thanks, but you can't tell how nervous I am. So I ended up going into print journalism, and photography kind of took a back burner while I got my journalism career started. Um, and I think it was back in December 2018, I just decided that I wanted to pick it back up. So that's when I started photographing again, updated pretty much all of my equipment. And now, a couple of years later, I have a really thriving business. It's run purely on the weekday evenings and weekends. So I am busy and working all the time.
Well, thank you for making time for this
Yes.
lovely chat. So do you still do journalism as well as photography?
Yeah, so I still work full time as a journalist. I write about government. So
Who do
it's a
you
little
write
bit
for?
of, I write for Bethesda Beat in Maryland.
Bethesda Beat. Okay.
Yeah, so
So
I write.
right up next to me.
Oh, where do you live?
I live in Fairfax, Virginia.
Oh, okay. I'm in Arlington.
Oh, rock on.
Yeah.
So why are we doing this down
Close to
here?
Because this is our home studio, literally home. I want to emphasize home.
We are in my dining room right now.
Rock on.
Yes.
So you were in the thick of it
Yes,
in
I
Bethesda.
am.
Ooh, okay.
Yes.
Nate didn't allude me to you being actually a journalist. I thought photographer was your main thing, but journalism.
Well-rounded.
Maybe we're gonna. I don't know what to tackle now, but I'll let Nate. I'll let Nate take over, and I'll just stop this diatribe.
Which of the two do you tend to gravitate towards? So, like, if you had to cut one out to make more time for the other, which would it be?
I think that the fact that I work full time as a journalist, I think, that kind of takes precedence in my life. But um, almost all of my personal time is devoted to photography. So I think that they're maybe almost like 50-50 as far as my attention, because a lot of people have said to me, oh, well, why don't you just pick up photojournalism, because it's sort of a combination of the two. But I think that what people don't realize about photography is that
Money.
Sorry, I thought you were telling me to go closer.
No.
That
was the money. That's the money.
Yeah.
That's the money.
Yeah. So I think what a lot of people don't understand about photography is that just because you're good at photographing one thing doesn't mean that you're good at photographing another. So photojournalism is a very specific kind of, skill and talent. And that's just something that I don't think that, I'm more of like the fine art portraiture end. So one day, I think that it would be great to go full time as a photographer, but I really enjoy journalism as well, and I have a passion for that, so I'm sticking in it for now. And yes, partly because of the money, but journalists don't make very much money either. So I'm kind of stuck in this weird rut of two careers that
Because you get paid by the photo, right? Is that
No,
still a
so
thing?
I actually have an hourly rate, so that's how people pay me.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I should have specified. So photographers for newspapers, like if they're freelance, they get paid by the photo.
So it depends. So if you're a freelancer, yes, I believe so.
Okay.
You might also have some kind
But
of
if you're a
hourly
staff
rate.
photographer, you get an hourly.
Yeah, you
Right.
get an hourly
Okay.
pay wage. Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification. I've
Yeah.
learned something today. I'm good. Thanks. See you. No.
Phil has gotten his nugget and he is
Yep.
done.
Yeah, I try to reach for one nugget at an interview.
Do you have a favorite like style that you normally go for when you do portraiture, or is it just dependent on the couple or the person or the location?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think that a lot of people would describe my style as dark and moody. That's kind of the industry
Every
terms for it.
photographer ever.
Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely focus on intimacy in my photographs. As far as clients, a big part of my client work is couples and boudoir. So yeah, anything nice and steamy, I am down for. But
when can you pencil Nate and I in?
We need headshots for the podcast.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Maybe
we'll
something more.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing how riled up I can get Nate right now.
Yeah, but as far as like
no,
myself,
Nate's in shorts today and not pants. So, whoo,
oh, okay.
Hashtag Nate's in shorts.
Yeah, getting a little risque there.
He's not a never nude. He's a never shorts.
Yeah. But as far as like my fine art, which I think you guys might be more interested in talking about, is I mostly do self-portraiture. And that I think is something that people don't see often. So I get a lot of interest in that. And I really focus on women's issues with that.
Okay.
Is that the journalism in you?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you guys said.
Is that the journalist side in you coming out for your women's issues series?
As far as women's issues, probably not, because in journalism, I actually focus, or in the past, I've written about. Right now, I write about government, and I've also written about business and education. So it's kind of separate.
Ooh, the
from
big
that.
three. Ooh.
Yeah, the big three. Yeah, it's an exciting life and very different from photography. So I get, the best of both worlds.
So can you elaborate more on tackling women's issues in your photography? Specifically, what are you trying to portray? What are you trying to represent in your photography?
Yeah, so back in college, I started this project, and believe it or not, I am still working on it. I don't
Very
know how many
cool.
years has it been. Oh my gosh, now I feel old. I think it's been.
I'm still working on life, so a project's good. Good project's good.
Yeah, I think maybe it's been 5 years. I don't know. I don't really want to calculate it, but I've been working on this project off and on, and I honestly don't think that I'll really ever be finished with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a self-portraiture project called Her, and it's specifically focused on portraying and exploring stereotypes, ideas, and traditional roles that kind of have been stuck on women. And I'm a big feminist, so I'm all for it. And I have different ones that focus on, physical abuse or stereotypes like women need to, stay at home and cook and clean, things like that. So I think that it allows me to kind of explore the experiences I have had myself as a woman, as well as other stereotypes that women have experienced that maybe I myself haven't. The great thing that I think is about the work is that a lot of women will look at my work and see other things, other meanings in it. And, my work is kind of more vague to, make sure it's not like in your
Okay. Sorry.
When I create a piece, a photograph for it, I try to make it vague and not obvious about what the photograph is about. Because I want people to look at the photo and draw from their own experience to see perhaps a different thing than what I intended.
Great. All great art does that.
I was gonna say that's the art in it, because that's how paintings are. That's how sculptures are. That's how
Right.
art as a whole is. The artist has um, their own thoughts behind it, but someone else might see something different.
Right. You don't want to make it obvious so that it looks like a stock photo.
Shudder.
I just go the stock what? Because I don't I have
You don't know
I,
what a stock photo is?
I know what a stock photo is.
Okay.
I've seen a bunch on what do you call it? Photoshop and all that. The Adobe stock
Yeah.
images
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
You can
exactly.
make good money doing stock photo, actually.
That's true. Yes.
Like the people that they just take thousands of pictures a year, but they're all just like generic, and they sell them to third party clients like Adobe and stuff.
Nice. So back to your project. So can you so you started in college. What sort of issues were you focusing on then? The same sort of deal, or what you've said, gender norms, gender roles, women's rights, and so now today, 2020. Are you still focusing on those same issues? Why are those same issues still here? Maybe that's what I'm trying to ask, is like, why have we not figured this shit out?
Ooh, you're getting deep here. Yeah, so I am still focusing on the same things. I mean, obviously, each photograph is focused on a different issue, so I don't really focus on the same stereotype or traditional perceived role of for different photographs. So there are plenty of them out there regarding women, and I think that unfortunately I don't think that the world will get to a place where, everyone sees women equally anytime soon. Hopefully soon. We've made a lot of progress. But uh I just think that, women will always find inequalities in different aspects of their life, whether they realize them or not, really.
Have you noticed any in your working place or in your photography work?
I probably shouldn't talk about my workplace on this podcast.
Never mind.
Yeah, we're not gonna go there.
Have you ever noticed those issues pop up in your photography career?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Have you noticed any of those issues pop up in your photography career?
Um, Probably not my photography career. But throughout my journalism career, yes.
That's what I meant by
I
workplace, not the specific job you're at right now.
I think that, even just generally, some people can also be a little degrading towards women, and maybe they don't even realize that their comment was degrading. But yeah, I mean, I think that women, it doesn't matter what career you're in, you find it in almost every single, place of your life. I mean, even your home life can be like that. But yeah, I mean, we experience it in all different ways of our life, all different areas of our life. And, I think that men also have to deal with certain, stereotypes and traditional roles that are also pressured to be placed on them. So it's not just women that we're talking about here.
So men are can't be emotional. I'm just gonna keep going with this conversation, because I think we've never tackled this here on this podcast before.
Yeah, we were talking about
Um,
tackling sexism in art and the creative world, but we haven't yet.
and you're very well versed in the subject, so I think I want to keep going with this. I don't know what Nate wants to do. So you say men have to deal with stereotypes and
Yeah, I
yes,
mean,
other things in the workplace. What I'm trying to say, Are those still valid though? Are they valid in the
What do you mean
in the
by valid?
conversation? In the conversation?
You
Um,
mean men's experiences with stereotypes?
yeah.
I mean, yeah. Any type of, negative experience is valid. It's kind of like, for example, we always when we think of like abuse, our minds usually go to, women being abused by men, but men can be just as abused by women.
Johnny Depp
So,
just won his
yes.
lawsuit.
Did he now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they took it back. Did you hear about
Yeah,
that?
so I mean, like I have this project that I've been focusing on, but one that I have been recently looking into is starting a photography project called Him. So basically a similar project, but obviously wouldn't be self-portraiture. And I would be interviewing men about their experiences, stereotypes that they have felt, things like that, traditional roles, so that I can do a similar project about men. But the only problem is I'm not a man. So I have a list of maybe 7 men that I know who have volunteered to be interviewed to talk about their experiences with these. So I'm excited to get started on this project.
But you
And
said you're not a man though. Why would that put a roadblock on things?
so a lot of the work that went into her project focused on women was, like I said, based on my experiences as a woman, which makes it easier for me to channel that into my art.
Mm-hmm.
uh, since I'm not a man, it's going to be more difficult for me to try to fairly and
So
accurately.
you're worried about your biases, your explicit and
Yeah, I mean,
implicit
yeah,
biases.
every single person has certain biases
Mm-hmm.
against their gender.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why I'm going to be interviewing several men, to make sure that I am specifically drawing inspiration and information from them, not just my
Mm-hmm.
perceived experiences and viewpoint of men, because that's not going to be correct.
Right.
So I want to, do the project justice. I'm going to have to talk to men
Well, of
quite.
course, of course, of course, you're going to
Yeah.
focus on men explicitly.
So speaking of projects, when you let's say it's 2 o'clock in the morning, your brain wakes you up and you have a really good idea for another like art piece or series. What's the planning process for that look like? So when you start with the first little like just nugget of creativity, where do you go from there?
Yeah. So I usually take it and think through it a little more to kind of flesh out the idea and make sure that it's exactly how I want a photograph to look, the location, what I'm wearing in the photograph. Am I holding anything? What's the lighting like? There are a lot of different aspects that go into a photo and planning for it. Also talk out the idea with other artists sometimes and ask them, how do you think I could make this better? So from there, you plan out what you need, you go out, buy perhaps some props or other location needs, and then put it all together. I mean, I have even gone so far as making my own clouds out of lanterns and like pillow stuffing. So yeah.
I think
I
I
mean,
saw that one. I was kind of confused as to what was going on, but the clouds were fantastic.
well, yeah, the clouds were pretty good.
Do you have a trying to figure out how to say this. So like when you approach a project, do you usually have like a new thing you're trying to get better at, or have you ever just gone with it and used your existing skill set? Like how do you push yourself as a photographer and what does that look like?
Yeah, I think that, you know, just because you take a photo, it doesn't mean that it's done. So, I have taken and shot, in a self-portraiture session for this one photo, just to get one photo, like 60 photos, and then not liked any of them or felt like they came out the way I wanted them to. So I've gone back and, I think for example, one shot for the Her series, I was trying to do something on women being emotional and, channeling that through like food, right? So I'm sitting in the dark by the refrigerator door, and I bought a bunch of like junk food and put it all around me and was scattering it around the floor. And I had a mentor who looked at it and said, "Yeah, I don't think this is quite it. I think you need to go back and start over." So I had to buy all this junk food again because all the ice cream had melted and I had just basically thrown donuts all over the place. So, it's time, effort, and sometimes money that you have to put into making sure that you get the right shot. And like I said, you know, 60 photos sometimes for only the one perfect photo. And I think that artists especially are aware that it doesn't take just like one shot at it. Sometimes you start something and you completely start it over because it's not what you were looking for. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And like for photography, it's probably a little trickier than it is for me as an illustrator because I can simply create something and you have to deal with what you're given in a physical location and how to capture that in the way that you see in your head. And if it doesn't
Eh,
turn out that way, then you have to figure out how to get it there.
In a different way though, I almost feel like your art is more difficult when we're talking about like, redoing something or trying to make it perfect because, you know, you use pens, right? So if you mark something, it's there forever, right?
I
I mean,
normally
you correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know how you like erase something.
I usually start with pencil, and then when the pencil's where I want it, I go back over it with a pen.
Okay.
I
But like, have you ever like then marked it with a pen and then
100%.
decided, oh, I don't like that? Yeah. So, it's a little bit different with like digital photography, even like versus film photography. Digital, you can just, it's no big deal. You can erase it and retake it. Film, you don't know what your art looks like until you develop the film, which can always be nerve wracking.
Right. So you've said that your work with social justice issues and women's issues motivate your art. Is there anything else that motivates your art and work?
Yeah, so I think those are the big things. Like I said, women's issues. I'm very passionate about it. It's what I'm passionate about in my personal life. But for other work, other fine artwork, I also draw inspiration from like Greek mythology or paintings. There's nothing like getting out of of a creative rut than going to a museum and just walking through a gallery and drawing inspiration from it. Um, I think that uh, a lot of my other fine art work is very kind of like whimsical and moody and puts you in a place that doesn't doesn't reflect the current world, I guess you could say. That sounds kind of weird, but I have
Escapism
like
almost.
so I have like a vintage dress collection of like, I don't know, 30 some dresses that I use. That I've built over like, I don't know, 6, 7 years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think
So
it
I have a whole closet dedicated to just like photo props and dresses.
We might be able to have another episode just on that. And we can talk about vintage dresses because I know there's a market for that. And
every guest we've had on has some like side hobby that has
yeah,
almost been more fascinating than what we brought them on for. Um,
Yeah, I don't put that past artists.
we had a guy on yesterday who he when he was in high school, he bought and resold old Star Wars action figures to the
and
ex-
action figures in general,
to the
toys.
to the
Yeah,
extent that he paid for his house's down payment with money he made doing it.
Just with Star Wars
Well,
figurines.
just 80s, 70s and 80s toys.
Yep.
So what you're saying is I should have hoarded all of the toys that I got as a child and kept them in boxes
Yep.
to sell later on.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, well,
And there's like backroom deals that go on even before the toy conventions, he was saying.
I heard Beanie Babies are worth a lot.
No, they're not.
I heard
They're
that
not worth shit.
if you get the rare ones.
Oh, the rare ones. Well, I have a whole bag in my closet at my parents' house that.
Well, you should go through them because
what's my
I
foil
looked up a list.
Charmander worth?
And apparently I had owned a really rare one and I don't even know where it is anymore. So, I could have made like $5,000 of this one stuffed animal.
Wow. Remember when Pokemon cards like went up in value once Pokemon Go came out, and like a month later everything just went. We all got excited. We were like, guys, we got to go find our cards. I'm going to make some money. And then
I don't because I didn't actually play Pokemon.
I'm not going to comment on what I wanted to say because that's inappropriate.
It looks like you want to say it.
I don't want to say it. No, I don't want to say it. I don't want to get into an argument and everyone's going to comment on this podcast. But yeah, whatever. I really want to tackle your views on women's rights and issues maybe another time, because I think we could do a whole episode on that, but I'm not well versed enough right now.
We could do a whole episode on a lot of things.
We can do a whole episode on a lot of things. What were you saying? I lost my. So we have 6 minutes left, so I'm just gonna warn you now.
Oh, did it actually?
Yeah, it actually came up.
Okay, are you guys getting what? Oh, you're already recording. Well, are you guys getting what you want out of this? Let me know if you want me to talk about something else. Or
No, this is fine. This is fine. I think this is on our end, a little bit more than we didn't prepare as much, and I didn't know. She was an exceptional journalist and a photographer. So she's battling between art and truth, but art is truth.
Art and truth, yes. So are you an artist?
I'm a musician.
Okay, all right.
So that
he's a bass player.
So that makes me the worst type of artist, probably. No, maybe painters. No, painters. I think painters are the worst type of artists.
Really? Why is that?
They're nuts.
Nuts as in like mentally unstable?
Oh, we're all mentally unstable. They're just more mentally unstable than the rest of us.
Pick your level of crazy and decide to deal with it.
Picasso. Let's see, who else?
Do you the real question is, do you know any painters personally that you think are, mentally insane?
I'm trying to
clinically, no.
Clinically, no.
No, I know a few who struggle with a lot of mental health insecurities and
that's
anxiety.
that's become a definitely a one topic here on the podcast. We've been reoccurring with guests.
So I'll give you a little bit of background on this project. This is actually Phil's idea.
We usually save this for the end, but sure, we can go now. That's fine.
Okay. So Phil approached me to do this podcast mostly to talk or to give artists a place to like talk about why they do what they do, and also to kind of like, because we're all introverts and don't normally talk about it, but mental health has been an issue that keeps coming up because creatives. Yeah, and he asked me if I wanted to help jump on, and I was initially
he was apprehensive.
I have so much to do.
But you're getting it done.
Yeah, because I have so much to do. And so I didn't start believing in it until I started asking people if they wanted to talk about their field,
and their work,
and their work,
art,
and all of their responses
life
have been phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm learning more and more about people.
Yeah, I mean, people
art.
like to talk about themselves, right? So,
but artists don't always have a place to do so.
That's true.
Sometimes artists don't like to talk about themselves.
Yeah,
unless you get a couple drinks in them.
Except I feel like a lot of artists are also really vain.
Low key vain. Like
maybe I don't know. I know a couple high key vain ones.
Do you know Zach Johnson?
No.
He's a photographer here in Richmond and has like 20,000 followers. His editing is off the charts. Um, I didn't realize it at first, but he's like super insecure about his work. And I was like, dude, we need to get you on about your editing. And he's just like, no, no, no. And I'm like, dude, he's
I mean,
the
Jeremy said it last night. Musicians are super insecure. I understand that. I've dealt with insecurities all my life.
Yeah, I think every artist kind of has their own insecurities. I mean, you compare yourself to other artists and, think, why can't I, you know, why does my work not look like theirs? Or why do I not have as many people who follow me on social media as them?
Which I'm terrible
Um,
at social media, so I really don't give a shit.
that's
This
like,
podcast, something I'm passionate about, like this, like, yeah, well, yeah, I would love followers and I love listeners. Personally, I'm just like, my life's boring as shit. My life is boring as yours.
I think that people, if they listen to your music though, they would want to also see your face and learn about
I
your
gotta
life.
stay mysterious.
You gotta stay mysterious. That's part of the branding, right?
That's actually a really good
No, that's
point that
that's how I meet women, but never mind that. I'm not gonna go there.
I'm a podcaster.
I'm a podcast.
So how do you
I have a
how,
Tinder story about that, but we won't tell that now. Maybe after. Nate, keep going. Go. Just to talk over me. Just let me end my thing and you keep going.
after you? So how do you balance the authenticity of being your genuine self on social media, but also maintaining a level of professionalism in your like photographic work?
Yeah, so I think that, first and foremost, it's still a professional account. And even though I kind of have my own separate art on there, I still also have clients. So I still have to maintain a form of professionalism. But
We're
I
working on
think,
it.
yeah. So I think that, you know, in the beginning when I was trying to, gain a following, I was looking at what other photographers were doing and was trying to mimic a lot of what they were doing on their social media. But it wasn't really working until I kind of threw that out the window and was like, okay, never mind. I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing since it's not working for me. And as soon as I kind of started showing up on my profile, sharing my personal life, just being myself and not really, trying to be a business owner the whole time. That's when I really started gaining a following. And I think that people like authenticity and they can very easily tell if you're faking it. So a lot of times people will tell me that they like when I show up on my profile and share my personal life because they know that there's someone, an artist there who's actually like a real human being, instead of someone who just cares about running their business and getting money, etc. So I think that each person really has their own unique approach to their social media that they just have to figure out. But my advice to other people is just make sure that you're being your own self and authentic because people can see past, being fake.
Can we quote you on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So we were working on building the website yesterday, and I was some of the templates that I was going through, they had a spot for like a little like quote, and I'd like to have one for each of the artists, and that was very well said. So do you have any other pieces of advice in the I guess photography world that you keep hearing over and over and over again that's actually like really bad advice?
I'm going to repeat what you said to make sure that I heard what you said. You asked if I have any other piece of advice for photographers and if I've heard any bad pieces of advice.
No, that's actually shit. You found out to be actually shit.
Do you hear pieces of advice in your field that's actually just not good at all?
Okay, so not bad, just shit. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Like you thought was like, the gospel truth from somebody, but then you lived it yourself or you had that situation and you found out it was just complete shit. So yeah. Or you don't take advice from people and you just trudge on your own. That's fine too.
I don't take a lot of advice from people. So I guess it's kind of hypocritical for me to be going here like, listen to what I have to say. But
You said it
uh,
earlier. It's all experiential. It's based on
yeah,
it's
yeah,
based on your
exactly.
just predicate everything with it's been my experience that, and then people can't get mad at it.
So are
Yeah.
you a big follower of Hume then?
Of who?
Hume, David Hume.
No, I don't
Oh,
know.
okay, never mind. That's okay.
Don't put that in case like he's offended that I don't know who he is.
Oh, dude, he's dead.
I'm pretty sure he's long dead.
Oh,
He's
really?
been dead for a long
Okay.
time.
He's a
Well, I don't know
philosopher.
who this is. Maybe that's embarrassing for me to not know who this is.
No.
So.
It's okay. Some people don't like reading about old white dead dudes and their work and their lives and their ideas. It's fine. It's okay.
Well, would you like to talk about him?
No,
Okay, we'll just
I
skip.
don't want to bore the shit out of people.
Okay, we'll just skip the dead guy then.
Maybe. Oh, I love dead dudes. What are you talking about? That's my life. My life is just
Yeah.
old dead musicians.
Yeah. No, I think that a lot of people say that you have to specialize in one thing to actually be successful in photography. And I just don't really think that that's true. Um, that could perhaps be something in, growing your business. But I think that, people should be able to explore the different areas of photography as much as they want. I mean, what's the point of, you know, if you want to focus on one thing, fine. But people saying, oh, well, you need to like only focus on one thing in order to be successful. I don't think that's true. I do a whole bunch of portraiture work because I enjoy aspects of every single part of those. I'm not saying that I won't eventually, drop off on certain things, but I think that a lot of, exploring yourself as an artist and kind of finding your niche is, exploring different types of photography. So I don't think that people need to, only focus on one or two things. You can focus on a lot of different things and yeah, still be successful.
So this is a question that I actually accidentally dug up when somebody asked me why I read when I don't actually like the act of reading. Um, I enjoy reading for what I get out of it, but the physical act of sitting down to read is really painful for me as someone who can't sit still for that long. So, do you enjoy the physical act of taking photos and all of the editing, or is it simply to get to the end product, which you see in your head, to like get it out of your head and onto paper?
I think that a lot of the enjoyment for me, I mean, ultimately, it's seeing the final photograph. Uh, but I really enjoy the process of taking the photos, in the moment thinking, okay, how can I make this better? What can I change about the angle or the lighting to make this better? So it's the actual process. The editing, I would have to say, is probably my least favorite part.
Well, that's my
Um, you know,
favorite part.
really,
Yeah, I
I
love
hate just
editing.
like sitting there. I mean, the process of taking it is probably my favorite. I mean, especially when I'm doing self-portraiture work, it's just such a different experience photographing that versus, photographing other people. And one of the things that I really like and enjoy about self-portraiture is that when you are both the photographer and the model, um, well, first of all, you know what you want out of the photograph, so you can do it pretty easily instead of trying to translate that into words for someone else to do. But it's also just an entirely different experience trying to capture something when you can't see it for yourself, and actually taking the photo. So,
Are you more picky with your performances when you're doing self portraiture than you are with somebody else? Like, are you more critical?
yes, absolutely. Especially because, I'll sit there and I'll take 60 photos of like, sitting in one spot and
Tilt
I
your
need
head
all of
5 degrees to the top left, and you have to figure out how to get there from looking at a picture.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, oh, I need to be just, an inch more to the left and then it'll be perfect. Yeah, definitely more critical of my self-portraiture work. Maybe that has to do with the fact that, I'm also the one who's in it. So, I want to look a certain way as well. But Yeah, definitely more picky about my self-portraiture work, and it's also more difficult because, like I said, you can't be behind the camera and actually see what's going on in front of the lens. So that's probably mostly why there's so many photos. Is you have to get it right.
So I'm actually going through your Instagram right now. Um, you said moody is your or what people have described as your style, but I'm feeling more like that you're really great at capturing like emotional intent at that specific time, place, um, and the overall energy. That's my comment. Do you agree, disagree?
Well,
Um,
first of all, thanks. I appreciate that. Um, I think that I've gotten a lot of people who have said that. Most recently about my work in the last, you know, half a year or so, which to me reflects that I'm actually improving. Um, and emotion is something that I'm always trying to capture in my photographs, and I try to capture a whole range of them. Um,
and is that something
so
like you plan beforehand, or in that moment you you got it, you see it, and you click,
I think a lot of that is, especially when you're working with clients, is capturing it in the moment.
instantaneous?
So you try to like give them prompts in order to, especially if someone's kind of uncomfortable in the front of the camera, you have to kind of make them feel comfortable and draw out that emotion sometimes. A really popular one with photographers is telling one partner to whisper something in the other partner's ear, and you can say whatever you want. You don't have to tell me what it is. Usually it's something a little dirty, but yeah, that's
I'm
something
sorry,
that
the
a lot of
first thing that came into my mind was a little dirty.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, you gotta kind of loosen up your subjects and, get them to,
Sweet
you know,
nothing.
start having a good time. And, sometimes that means dirty comments in your partner's ear.
You
Or
should
something else. I just
you
then I
should
went the other way.
you should pull so Dave Chappelle. Can you hear me? Is that good?
Yeah.
Cool. So in one of Dave Chappelle's last stand up, he talks about how he's been in the comedy game for so long. He has a mixed bag. Sometimes he'll just think of a punchline and just put it in like a jar and then draw it up and then come up with a joke to lead up to that punchline. You should develop some form of like vocal cues for your couples so like nobody knows what they're gonna have to react to, and
Right.
it's like, all right, whisper this and then see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you ever this is an editing question. I kind of want to dig a little bit on the practical side. So the act of photography itself, as you said, is very in the moment, and you're trying to capture the intensity, the emotion, and the just the feel of what the couples are doing on set. But do you ever get back to the editing room and the footage or the film that you have in front of you have doesn't have what it takes to get the end product you see in your head? How do you edit it to get it there?
So I think that, with my work, I try to make sure that I don't get to that point. So I never want to, I'm constantly checking the back of my camera to check what I just photographed to make sure it's what I want, and is, you know, reflective of the mood I'm trying to get to. So if at all possible, I avoid actually getting, to the editing table and, uploading all the photos and just absolutely hating all of them. I mean, that has happened before. I think that's happened to everybody, but um I really try in the moment to avoid that during the session, because the worst thing is just, importing photos and, not seeing what you maybe perhaps even thought you had captured. So if I do get in that situation, I just try to. I don't think there's like you can't edit emotion into a photo. So I think that's like the biggest thing. There's nothing you can really do to, draw that out of a photo in your editing, I think. If you're trying to, convey maybe some, intimacy or make it romantic, you can, throw some black and white on it and, make it a little darker. But I think that it's really
What
key
about
to
fake
make
blood?
sure. Fake blood?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've never done that, but I'm sure there have been people who have thrown some of that in. I actually, for a photo,
Honestly, I was just like trying to see the your reaction, but okay, yeah, I know.
you're
I was
talking
baiting. I was baiting a little bit. I'm sorry.
talking about blood though, there was actually
That was my
one photo
next
that I did.
question.
I actually, I was on my way home from a class and my nose started bleeding. And I obviously was driving, so I was trying to make it stop. And I was like, wait a second, this would be great for a photo.
I'm taking a
So,
photo.
yeah, so I get home and I immediately, like, there's blood rushing from my nose. And I set up my tripod and my camera, and then my nose stops bleeding. So I'm like,
Oh no.
well, shit, that's what I like wanted. So I
Yeah.
am leaning over the sink, like with my head down, like trying to get it flowing again, which it does. And then I take the photo. But anyway, I have to show you guys that one so you know what I'm talking
Fantastic.
about. But
Opportunism.
it's a self-portrait of me with a bloody nose. And it's honestly one of my favorite self-portraits.
I really want
today.
to write a song about that. That sounds like a really cool topic.
The authenticity of that is fantastic.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Do you
Quote Nate there. I want to quote Nate.
fine. Do it. We're on the lam for this whole show. Do you have any other like shoot horror stories, or like a location that wasn't what you thought, or like it was, bright and sunny all day and like you could see like the bright shine on whoever's forehead or whatever?
I'm gonna slap that off. That's what I'm gonna do. Slap that off that forehead.
There have been so many times where, I'll shoot in July or August and clients will just be sweating up a storm, like, constantly handing them a towel and trying to get them dry, but like it just keeps coming.
Your forehead is so overexposed.
No, it's fun when someone gets their hair done, like colored, and then they start doing that. Oh man, I had to experience that a week ago. That was fun.
Yeah. I think that that's always tough to deal with, is when you have just like hot weather. So that can be a nightmare for a photographer, because that means that later on you have to go and Photoshop every single little, drop of sweat on their face. But I think like other things, a lot of people prefer different types of lighting. So like if it's a sunny day, no clouds, I'll have clients who be like, oh my God, it's perfect. And I'm like, oh my God, this is awful. So I think that the worst thing is when the sun is showing, except for, when it's going down for sunset or sunrise.
Said
But
every photographer ever.
yeah. But there are some photographers who actually prefer to shoot in direct sunlight. That's like the only time that they shoot. And that's
that person
great.
needs to go see a doctor.
Well, some of them just do it really, really well. But it's not my cup of tea, and I obviously have done it. But yeah, I go for, cloudy days all day. Give me totally overcast. If there's some rain, that's great too.
What's in your kit bag?
My kit bag?
Like what's in your photography bag?
Well, I brought, hold on. I brought my camera as a show and tell.
Oh hey.
So, yeah. So
that is a massive battery.
Yeah, it is. A battery pack on it. So I shoot with a Nikon D750. I am a Nikon person. A lot of photographers, especially photographers who do fine art, would gag at that. They like Canon, but I like to say they're the Canon snobs. But
I have a Canon, but it was free.
Okay, well, that's a little bit different. I mean, I shot Canon in college, so I mean, they're great cameras, but I'm definitely a Nikon gal.
Why did you switch?
Well, it was the college had cameras that we could use, and they were much nicer than the Nikon camera that I had at the time. So I switched back when I upgraded because I just love Nikon.
It's okay to nerd out a little bit. So like, why do you like Nikon more than Canon?
Honestly, a lot of it has to do with the fact that I think that, Canon and Nikon have similar, different camera types have similar quality, but because Canon is kind of the name brand gear, they are able to jack up their prices a little bit more. So I think that you're able to get Nikon equipment for, a lower price. Um, the other thing that I like about Nikon, I think like this has to do with like anyone who uses any type of camera brand, is where everything is as far as settings and you know camera camera settings.
User
So
preference, basically.
yeah, you know where everything is, where you need to go, camera preferences and settings. Yeah, so I just prefer Nikon because I think like a lot of other photographers, you prefer something if you've, used it for years. When you switch to a Canon, I don't know where anything is. So that's always tough. So I go with what I know. But I also have a Peak Design bag, which I really like. And I know one of the things you'd asked is what is the best purchase under $100 that you could get? I think one of the great ones is this Peak Design wrist strap. So a lot of times people don't like to use a shoulder strap because honestly, it's just a little annoying. So I use this wrist strap and it's really great because it also clips off really easily, and I can easily put my shoulder strap on. So that is the one thing that I would, recommend everyone to get is a wrist strap instead of a shoulder strap, because it's just so much easier to just have it strapped to your hand and not have it swinging all over the place.
I think that's the first time we've actually gotten a genuine answer to that question.
Yeah.
Most people
What do
have,
people usually say?
oh,
They avoid it.
I have no idea.
They usually don't
Really?
answer.
Yeah, most of the time.
Oh,
Most of the time, we don't get a
okay.
solid answer.
I
from
think that's
people.
such a helpful tip, like a helpful question.
Dude, I love that question. That's one of my favorites because it both shows you who the person is, but it's also a good piece of advice for other people in your field that need tips and tricks. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Can we go back in time a little bit? Speaking
Mhm.
to a younger you, if you could go back and speak to a younger you and give them, since you don't like to take your own advice, but could you take your own advice for once? What would you say? What would help a younger you lead them on the path or a better path, or just something to get them started and get them going, or
I think that the best piece of advice I could have given myself or even any young artist today is not to compare yourself to others. And that's something that I think all artists really struggle with, no matter where they are in their career. I still do this and have to remind myself to that I am in my own space and I'm doing my own unique thing. So I think that, you know, especially when you're a young budding artist trying to figure out, your own artistic style, it can be really difficult because you want to be successful right away. Um, and sometimes you can be, but I think that, as with everything, things take time and you can learn things from other artists. But comparing yourself to other people and in doing that, kind of having a negative experience with that is not healthy for anyone.
so
Oh,
does,
and I
does
would probably tell myself too to maybe listen to other people's advice more.
wow, that's you just flipped it.
Yeah, I mean, every
Does
artist doesn't
success
like
happen overnight?
does success happen
Can
overnight?
success happen overnight? Maybe that's the question I should ask.
Maybe if Usher finds you and wants to produce a song,
Yeah.
I,
as
th-
a
I
Justin
think
Bieber dig.
I think that each person has their own experience. So yeah, I think that success can happen overnight, but that's kind of the, 1 in 1 million, you know, chance. You get the right opportunity. Like as a musician, someone hears you at the right time at the right place and then you have a record deal with
You're
some
crazy, man. What are you talking about? Mine, the music doesn't sound that good. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm
That's
just
what I'd
saying,
say.
like, there's like different things, different opportunities that absolutely can steer you in the right direction. But I think that for the most part and for most people, it doesn't happen overnight, and that's perfectly okay. Um, I've accepted that, that's the case for me as well. And honestly, I think that you grow more as an artist and learn more about yourself and what you want to portray to your audience when you have the time to develop your skills, instead of kind of being thrown right into it. And yeah, success right away can be great, but oftentimes it can blind you to actually improving what you're doing.
That is a very fascinating sentiment because I feel like a lot of people they see the end result, but they don't always know how to get there. Um, and so what you're saying, or what I think you're saying, is just it's the day in and day out of the practice of getting better, and you'll eventually get to where you see yourself in the future.
Right, absolutely.
So we should get the fuck off social media and stop comparing ourselves to others
You know,
and do your own shit.
I mean, definitely if you're comparing yourself to other people, then, maybe just unfollow someone if you're having, a bad experience with seeing their work and you're just constantly comparing yourself to them. But at least for me, I'm not hopping off of social media because one, I love it, but also, 95% of my clients find me through Instagram, which is
That's the way to do business.
yeah,
It's
it's
just
just
the tool for
fascinating to
business
me.
now.
Yeah, so I probably won't hop off of Instagram until some other new social media comes
Are you
along.
on TikTok yet?
I was literally about to ask about that.
I am not, because I'm one of those people that
I really
like
want
it's
to. I
like
really want to start
how
a frame this podcast TikTok.
I'm one of those people that like is like, okay, how involved with this app is China?
That's what I was gonna say. Is like I
Oh,
don't know if we want China having all of our
Yeah, so I
information.
just
Well, we're
yeah,
on Zoom
exactly.
right now. Where did that start?
Did it start in China?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I had no idea. But that's a little bit different. I'm not sure, everyone has concerns about it. And I haven't really researched it myself, but I'm kind of like, oh, I'll keep my phone data to myself. Thank
Or
you
maybe it
very
was
much.
Taiwan. It was Taiwan or China that Zoom was started. I can't remember
Yeah.
now.
So
I
speaking of,
haven't.
But I think
Go
everyone
ahead.
would love to see our dance moves. My terrible dance moves, Nate's terrible dance moves. I think everyone would want to see those.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure.
never mind, I'm not gonna say
Keep going.
that.
You have to do the
um,
coordinated TikTok dances.
What the God? Don't even ask.
hashtag Fortnite. Um, so you mentioned unfollowing somebody on Instagram, possibly because you compare yourself to them and to their work. How do you balance inspiration through browsing social media and doing your own thing?
So I think that to balance inspiration while also not comparing yourself to others kind of takes like a constant reminder to yourself that you don't need to be exactly like them. Um, I think that when artists bloom, it's when they, decide that what they're doing is something that's unique, solely to them or, to a very specific, small subset of the market. And some people might not look to be different and want to kind of have like the mainstream look or work, which is perfectly fine too. I think, it's an individual choice, but you can definitely be inspired by someone without comparing yourself to them, which is really difficult, honestly. And that's something that, I still struggle with. Um, but it's constantly reminding myself that, you know, I have work that people look up to as well. I have people who have reached out to me and said that, you know, in just, being able to, just send me a question, and that I'll answer it and help them out with, a photo question really means a lot to them. And I think the fact that people look up to my work, also helps for me to not compare myself to others because, I have my own thing that I'm doing, and it's working and everyone's recognizing that.
Well, we're running a little bit short on time, but speaking of people messaging you, about your work and for pieces of advice, do you have any up and coming photographers you would like to shout out?
Or other artists, musicians, painters, sculptors, anything.
Yeah, about this question, did you just mean like up and coming artists?
Someone you would like to see get the recognition you feel they deserve for their work?
Okay, because like the way the question was worded, I was just like, I don't want to shout out anyone that I think needs my help.
No.
So that's not what you mean, right?
No. Someone you think is like really talented and should rightfully blow up.
Give me 1 second, because I do have a couple people.
And we will put them in the links below.
And maybe get them on the show. Ooh, that rhymed.
Yeah.
Anybody want a peanut?
So one person that you guys would probably have a ton of fun talking to is Kayla Ruiz of Kayla Ruiz Photography. And she is just the queen of steamy, intimate couple sessions. She is so good at it. And I mean, she'll get like, she'll get couples who are like in her studio stripping down to nothing.
I'm going to ask her the blood question.
Yeah. So she's just absolutely fantastic. The best in that area, I think. Another wonderful photographer is Rebecca Burt Photo. I think Rebecca Burt Photography, I should say. She just has, she's been getting into film recently, and she just knows how to capture emotion so much better than a lot of the photographers that I see. And like I said, she's been getting into film recently, and she's just so good. So she's one of the photographers that I personally look up to. And let me see if I can find one other like art kind of person. Does it have to be a photographer?
No.
Nate went first, and I was like, sculptors, painters, artists, musicians, anything.
Oh wait, so Nate actually, you interviewed Nate?
No, when
Not
I initially
yet.
asked you the question.
We might interview each other. That'd be interesting, I guess.
That could be a fun intro episode.
Yeah.
My own plug for my family. I actually have a brother-in-law who's a professional actor in New York, and another brother-in-law who's a professional dancer. And he's actually getting married to another professional dancer next year. And they're fantastic. So if you want to interview them, then I can hook you up.
So maybe we'll just sign off. Should we sign off?
We got 15 seconds.
Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
This has been Frame This Podcast with Briana Adhikusuma.
Woo! Nate said it.
Yay.
All right, everybody, stay positive, stay creative, stay safe, and have some fucking fun.